So this might be a little all over the place, but it connects in my head, so I'm going with it. And I was talking to my little brother, and it reminded me of a story from college where I had done some shit, and then I went out somewhere, and my girlfriend at the time, or at the technically at this point in time, we weren't actually together, but showed up, saw me doing something, smacked the crap out of me. And everybody, I was telling him about it because of the fact that, like, oh, when it happened, I reacted in a way that everybody else was like, damn, I can't believe you didn't do anything. Like, I'm shocked that you didn't get bit. And I'm like, well, I knew I was wrong in the situation. Like, it's not like, oh, I was in the clear, I wasn't doing anything wrong, and she came up and hit me for no reason. Like, no, you smacked the shit out of me for a reason. So, whatever. That led me into, like, okay, well, my reaction was, all right, that was messed up. I don't necessarily think I deserve to be smacked, but I get it. Your reaction might not have been right, but just don't do that in the future going forward. So I'm like, that's where I would draw the line. And if that was ever to happen again, in my head, at that point, I was like, oh, I'll just walk away. But that leads me to my other thing from this week, which is if I was to really draw that line there, like, what's the point in drawing the line if I'm not exactly going to stick to that? Because part of me knows, like, yeah, I could say, oh, I'd walk out, but that's not necessarily true. Granted, I'm not going to stay in a relationship with somebody hitting me, but just because they hit me once and then happen to hit me again doesn't mean up next time you do it, I'm absolutely going to walk out. If you hit me for some BS, no good reason, then yeah, maybe. But where do you draw the line in certain situations? Or that leads me to the question of where do you draw the line in certain situations, and then if you draw the line in this particular place, are you always going to stick to that line? It reminds me of the whole serenity prayer. Grant me the wisdom to accept the things I cannot change the things that I can, and the wisdom knows the difference. Or grant me the serenity or whatever. So it's like, if you have things that you can change, when do you act on changing them? Like, where do you put a line as in, like, all right, this is where I'm going to stop. And if this doesn't happen, then that's where I'm going to stop trying to do anything to change anything about something. Like, if you feel that there's something that can be done, do you act or do you sit back and not act on it? Do you just sit back, like, do you let it go and, in a sense, sit on the fact that there's something that you can do but don't do it? When do you know when to do that? I don't know. That's like, that goes to the end of it, is the wisdom to know the difference. Like, well, where is your line for the difference? If there's something that you can do and you know you can do something and then you don't do it, are you then responsible for whatever comes from that too? Like, if something drags out for longer than it has to, but you knew something, some type of information, or you had some type of thing that you could have done to prevent this from dragging out, but didn't do it because you went with the, oh, well, this is something that I can't change, so I have to leave it alone. So then, I don't know, do you get the blame for whatever happens later anyway? It sounds twisted when talking about it, but this is also how it sounds in my head, so it's really coming out no better. But it's a thing that I'm kind of stuck on. It's like when to do something, when not to do something, when to leave things alone and let them be, and when to act. You can't always sit back and leave things alone, but you can't always act either. So it's, yes, that wisdom to know the difference. But where do you draw the line in what the difference is? There's a point where you have to do something, and then there's a point where you have to sit back and say, all right, I'm not going to do anything. I guess my line is drawn after I try, but how much do you try before you give up or throw in the towel in any way, shape, or form? I don't know. Just thought I'd share that little story with you, and the weekly dilemma going through my head. I may do a DBZ video. Maybe. Probably not. I'll just wait until after the tournament starts and go from there, which is tomorrow. I'm excited. Hope you have a good one. Zen thoughts.